The summer of my 16th year was almost my last. I was diagnosed with bacteremia, septic emboli, and osteomyelitis. Basically, I had a deadly bacteria in my bones, lungs, and bloodstream. Nightmare summer? Granted, 10 surgeries, 4 months in hospital, and missing a semester of school is not my idea of fun. But what I learned from the experience is something that I will be able to carry with me for the rest of my life. But how did this happen? 2 days after I arrived in a summer camp in Chicago, I woke up in the middle of the night with a sharp pain in my right knee and struggling to breathe. That night, at the emergency room and the orthopedic clinic the next day, the doctors misdiagnosed me. They casted my right leg from hip to toe. And I was just left in my dorm room. If I needed help, say to get out of bed, I would have to yell at the top of my lungs to get someone to help me. And the pain just continued to get worse and worse. It got so bad that I needed to call my mom to come and pick me up from the camp. And the next morning, I woke up with 105-degree fever and was rushed to the hospital. Once I got to the hospital, I was immediately hooked up to an IV, and I had an MRI done, which revealed that I had a major collection of pus in my right leg. That morning, at 4 a.m., my leg was operated on for the first time. Over the next few weeks, the news continued to get worse and worse. I was moved to intensive care. The infection had spread throughout my entire body, including my lungs. I had to have an oxygen tube in my nose 24/7 just so I could breathe. The bacteria in my body was so infectious that anytime someone came into my room, they would have to wear a full body gown, mask, and gloves. I didn't see a person's face for months. I only saw eyes. In the intensive care unit, I was hooked up to all the monitors imaginable. The doctors were constantly checking my blood pressure, my CO2 levels, my temperature. Sometimes my temperature got so high, the doctors would need to put ice bags on my body just to cool me down. I had 4 surgeries in 9 days, and I still did not get better. It got to the point that everyone in the hospital knew my name. And trust me, being famous in a hospital is not a good thing. I was put on medication the nurses called the big guns. Why? If the antibiotics didn't destroy my kidneys or obliterate my liver, it would defeat the bacteria. Regardless, it turned my pee red. And trust me, having pee that is red is a very disconcerting sight. To check if the drugs were working, I had to have blood drawn at least twice a day. And with the daily blood draws and frequent surgeries, I lost so much blood that I needed 2 blood transfusions. It was at this point that I began to doubt myself. I began to think that I was not good enough. I could not change my circumstance. I could not wake up one day and not be 75 pounds. I could not wake up without the fear of losing my right leg. I could not wake up without the fear of dying. I could not ask the doctors to miraculously save me. I could not ask the doctors to miraculously save me. But the doctors, they kept on pushing me. They kept on pushing me to survive. And at this point, but luckily, after 6 surgeries, the fever stopped and I started to get better. So thanks to physical therapy, I could finally get out of bed by myself. I couldn't go very far though because I was in isolation. I was never allowed outside my room and I never saw sunlight. But after 80 days in the hospital, I was finally released. I was still very weak though. I was only 80 pounds. I still had to use crutches and I still had to wear a knee immobilizer. But I thought it was the end of my journey and I was ready to move on with my life. But then, 2 weeks later, after doing an MRI at the hospital for special surgery, everything changed once again. When I went into the MRI room, the doctors were dressed normally, and I was as relaxed as a person can be, with what sounded like 20 hammers banging in my ears. But when a couple of previously normally dressed technicians came in completely gowned, my heart dropped. I looked back to the entrance, and I saw doctors hovering around the computer monitors, faces wide open with shock. My fear was twisting faster and faster. I thought to myself, oh God, how am I going to live with only one leg? I am going to lose my leg. My dream of running, gone. My dream of walking, gone. I felt as if I was being repeatedly punched in the gut. I was never given the chance to recuperate and catch my breath. My worst nightmare had become a reality. The infection was back. 2 days later, 2 days after the MRI, I was back under the knife again, twice. This time, doctors removed part of the bone in my right leg. 10 more days in the hospital, and again the doctor said everything was okay. But yet again, more bad news was still to come. Thanksgiving 2013. My mom and I were celebrating. I had been released after hospital after 3 months, 8 surgeries. We were extremely happy. And then the phone call came. My mom picked up the phone, and the doctor told her that the infection was back. And this time, it was in my left arm. This meant that I would need 2 additional surgeries, minimum. Luckily, the surgeries went well. And last March, when I went to go see the doctor, he told me that my test results and blood results were normal. And for this, I have nothing but appreciation. I could have died at the age of 16, but here I am, alive and able to tell the tale. And for this, I'm unbelievably thankful. For it truly was a miracle. Now, after going through this experience, there are lessons that I learned that I'll be able to carry with me for the rest of my life. I learned the benefit of a positive attitude. Of course, there were times when I thought I wouldn't make it, where I thought I would lose my leg. But my mom and I, my parents, we forced myself to see the positive. We redirected my thoughts. I made myself envision myself running. I made myself envision myself walking. I made myself envision myself leading a normal life. I did not succumb to my darkest thoughts. I also learned that the person who can defend you the best is you. In Chicago, if they had done an MRI instead of casting my leg, I would have only needed 1 or 2 surgeries. At the hospital, if they had done an MRI on my left arm when I first complained about pain, they would have realized that the infection was there as well as in my arm. We tend to have blind faith in doctors. They can be very intimidating and very arrogant, but they are not always right. If my parents hadn't triple-checked everything the doctor said and insisted that I go to a hospital for special surgery for a second opinion, the infection would have never been defeated. I learned to question a superior's judgment in a respectful manner. Educate yourself and reach out to others. My parents and I would talk to doctors in Atlanta, California, Connecticut, and even a couple of doctors from Oxford. We were very persistent. Do not be afraid to stand up for yourself. My doctors, myself, my parents, we spent hours trying to figure out how the infection got into my body. And you know what we realized? It doesn't really matter. Life is random. Things just happen. There's an arbitrary randomness to life. In this world of advanced technology and science, we think that we know all the answers, but we really don't. We really don't. The choice that I did have, though, was either to give up or keep on going. What happened to me could have destroyed me, could have crumbled me, but I was not going to survive to be afraid of life. That was not going to happen to me. Not to me. My mom always says, we do not regret the things that we have not done in life. We do not regret the things that we have done in life. We regret the things that we have not done. And I've made a lot of mistakes in my life, but I like to believe that I've chased every single opportunity. There is so much to experience in this world, and one must go out and experience it before it is too late. Enjoy every second, because at any moment it could be viciously stripped away. So I guess the most important lesson I learned is to live life to the fullest and enjoy every moment. Thank you very much.